My name is Tori. This is Novel Life. Welcome back to my channel. And welcome to another book recommendations video where I'm going to be chatting about enemies to lovers, contemporary romances that I recommend to you. So I recently did a romantasy edition for enemies to lovers book recommendations because I had so much of both romantasy and I had so many of contemporary. I decided just to split them up. I am a friends to lovers girly. I don't know what it is. I just love a friends to lovers book and a romance. I don't know. It just gets me every time. But I do enjoy a very, very good enemies to lovers that makes sense, where they may throw some shade at each other. They may throw some insults. They may banter a decent amount. But at the end of the book, they get together and they have their HEA. And I love that. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the stack of books that I have to recommend to you. The first one is Unsteady by Peyton Corinne. If you've watched me for a while, you guys know that Unsteady by Peyton Corinne is one of my all-time favorite books. I love this book. Now, I did read Unloved in February, and it is one of my favorite books that I read in February. I wanted to mention this book only because the characters definitely have those enemies to lovers vibes at the beginning of the book. Now, Sadie, our female character, she does not have time to add another person to the list of people that she has to take care of and love and care about. And when she meets Reese, she finds him in the middle of a panic attack after trying to get on the ice. And it's horrible to see him go through that panic attack, but they banter a little bit. I would say this is more like dislike to love, but I still would recommend it for enemies to lovers book because I loved it. I loved the story. It was beautiful. It was literally one of I don't know, my all-time favorite book. I don't know how else to say it, but if you do love college hockey, if you love more angsty / emotional romances, this one's for you. They definitely have those enemies to lovers vibes at the beginning of the book. The next one I have is a recent read, and that is On Love Rose Lane by Samantha Young. So this one is the first book in her Return to Dublin Street. If you've read Samantha Young in the past, you may have read her On Dublin Street series. It is a big series of contemporary romances. And in this one, you see that it is the kids, or the female character is the kid of one of the parents from that series, which I have read On Dublin Street, so it was really cool to see it. But I loved the mental health rep in this book. That is one of my favorite parts of this book. But I will say that these two characters, they kind of move into the same, I think they call it flats over there, but in Scotland, they move in and become neighbors. And she is a PR company marketing. She has her own marketing company, which I find really interesting. I don't always see that. It's social media marketing, so she has her own social media marketing company. I don't always see that in a book, and especially a romance book, so I really loved that part of it. But she does not like our hero, okay? He is a soccer player, and they've kind of had a past, a little bit of a past, and she just thinks he is completely over the top. She thinks that he is just way too full of himself and does not like him, but they have to fake date for reasons. I will say it's part of the plot, and that enemies to lovers kind of turns into attraction. And once that attraction kind of starts up, you see that they slowly start to fall for each other. And he sees her at a vulnerable spot. She sees him in a vulnerable spot. And yeah, I actually really enjoyed this book. The audiobook was absolutely amazing. The narrators did the accents perfectly, so if you can grab the audiobook of this one, definitely pick up this one. The next one I have is Fight by Salone St. James. So this is book 1 in the Skyridge Hotshot series. All of these covers I absolutely loved. I binged this series in January as the books were coming out because there's a different author for each book, but they all are in the same wildfire fighter fires squad. I think that's a squadron. I guess that's the right word. But this one is the most enemies to lovers in my eyes. And I mean true enemies to lovers. There's parts of this book where I was damn, this guy really hates her. He really feels a certain type of way towards her right now. And he wants nothing to do with them. So it's interesting. She comes to town. She's kind of hiding from something. And at the beginning of the book, you don't really know what it is, but she's hiding from something. So she comes to the town, she becomes an EMT. When the wildfire squadron has to go out to fight a wildfire, they always usually take an EMT squad too. So it's 2 people that are part of the EMT, that work as the EMTs, go with them. So it's her and the owner. And because she's a newbie, they want her to go out and learn all the things, right? Which totally makes sense. When they're out there, they have a spicy scene in the ambulance, and it's just a one-off thing. They find them both attractive. They're stuck together for 2 weeks or something like that. The enemies to lovers aspect, I would say the enemies aspect happens when they come home and certain things start to come out, and he's screw you. I am so mad at you Like, I don't want to be around you. There's a whole hiking scene that is like very into the I really hate you type thing, but he like reluctantly still goes to help her when something happens. I loved it. There's only one bed in this book too. They had a lot of tropes, but I really, really enjoyed it. So this is another Enemies to Lovers I would highly recommend. The next one I have to talk about is All the Missing Pieces by Catherine Cowles. This is a standalone that Catherine Cowles has, so you can completely read this by itself and you don't have to pick up a previous series or start a new series, basically. Now, this one is about a podcaster. She's a true crime podcaster that goes to the super small town, which is called Shady Cove, and she goes and she kind of gets on the sheriff of the town's bad side automatically. She kind of like parked wrong and someone calls the cops on her and they're like, oh my God, there's this cat in the van that is parked wrong or something like that. And he's like, I'm not going to break this van for a cat. And she comes out and she's like, my cat has air conditioning, like the van's on and everything. She kind of gets on the sheriff's bad side. But after that, he realizes who and what she's looking into. And he is like, hell no, I do not want her anywhere near my town. I want her gone. I want her just out of here. And he does everything possible to try and like push her away, get her out of this town. And she's like, I'm not leaving. I'm not freaking leaving, okay? I really enjoyed this one. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. Like I said, it's a standalone by Catherine, so definitely all the Enemies to Lovers, like borderline hate to love vibes in this one. The next one I have is Keep Me by Sarah Kate. So this is the first book in the Sinful Manor series. I think this is the first book. I was able to listen to the audiobook of this and I actually really enjoyed this. I would say this has enemies to lovers, but he's like super grumpy and he hates literally everyone. She is coming to Scotland because the family is like, hey, if you can get him, our hero, to fall in love with you, which this is his family talking, if you can get him to fall in love with you and marry him, you can get access to the estate that he's living on and it'll be transferred to your name. And once it's transferred to your name, you can transfer it to our name. Basically, they want the estate for themselves. He's been living in this state for I don't know how many years. He's like a reclusive. He stays there. He doesn't want to leave. He likes his space there. So it's this interesting dynamic that she is like, I need this money. And this is a lot of money to turn down, but like I would really love this chance to like, you know, get out of debt, all this other stuff. So I did enjoy this one, definitely enemies to lovers. And when he finds out that third act breakup is harsh, I'll tell you that. The next one I have is the third book in the series, and that is Fireline by Maggie Gates. I recently read this towards the end of 2024, and I actually really enjoy this. I think that if you love romantic suspense, you would love this book. It has a little bit of that in this book, and I did not mind it in the slightest. Now this one, once again, they have like a one-night stand. They don't know who each other is, and they go their separate ways. And then you find out that the hero comes to work one day, and the new chef for the like ranch resort that his family is building, that he is adamant that he does not want, she's the new chef, like head chef for that. And he's like, oh, hell no, like I don't mix business with pleasure, like I do not want her around. And he realizes she's hiding things and she's not telling anyone what she's hiding, and it becomes a little messy. It definitely becomes really messy to a point where I was like, I don't know if she as in Maggie Gates, I don't know if she can like unravel all this stuff, but she did, and I enjoyed it. Like I said, it's the third book in a series, but you can read it as a complete standalone. It's just different brothers in this series, and I read book two first, then I read book 3, and I haven't gone back to read book 1, but it's like a family that owns this ranch, and they're doing different things with this ranch. So yeah, this one is definitely enemies to lovers. They kind of play pranks on each other. Well, he does that to her. He does everything to get under her skin, you know, and she's like trying to take this whole, like, this job really seriously. It's like her first big break that she's gotten, and she can like kind of like move away from the city where all of her secrets are from. Say that. But yeah, if you like romantic suspense, definitely check this one out. Definitely enemies to lovers, a lot in this one. The next one I have is The Striker by Ana Huang. So this is Ana Huang's first soccer romance, or sports romance, I should say. And in this book, The Striker, you see that our female character is a ballerina. She is not a ballerina anymore. She was in an accident and she can't technically dance. She deals with a lot of chronic pain. So she kind of teaches some classes. She doesn't professionally dance anymore. But you see that her brother is a soccer star, and she has to train the rival of her brothers. They're on the same team now. Our hero is traded to be on the team that her brother plays for, and they want, during the off season, him to kind of like what's the word, like get some flexibility, and so they hire her to train him. It's a little bit of a weird situation, but they're forced together, and she is like, I don't like you, like you're literally my brother's biggest rival, you have talked so much shit, but I'm slowly starting to fall for you, like I realize there's another side to you that you don't let other people see. So I really enjoyed this one. This is Ana Huang's first book in this sports romance series. She does have The Defender coming out later this year, which I'm very excited for. It is a little bit thick of a book, but as someone who has chronic pain, I actually enjoyed chronic pain rep in here. It's definitely relatable in every way. The next one I have is Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. So this is Julie Soto's newest contemporary release that came out last year. And I will say this is light on the enemies to lovers vibes only because she doesn't really not like him. She starts to not like him when she realizes that he doesn't like her, if that makes sense. So like he has this like disdain for her because he sees her as like a huge competition, as someone who is very proficient in the instrument that he plays in cello. He is like, I don't want anyone to come close to what I can do as a professional like music person, you know what I mean? So he's like very taken back by her because he's never like been attracted to her like physically, mentally, but also he's like, I'm envious of how she plays this instrument, if that makes sense. So when she realizes that he has this like disdain for her, and she's like, well, I don't like you either. Like, okay, fine, I just won't be around you. I don't want anything to do with you. And so over time, he's like, okay, but I kind of still like her. So what can I do to get her attention? Oh, she'll play music with me. So he like tries to like get her to play music. At one point, he's like, I don't care what you give me. I will make music with you. I will, have sexual relations with you. I'll date you. Whatever you want to give me, I'll take it. Like, I'm kind of obsessed with you. I love it. So it's a little bit different take on enemies to lovers, but it's definitely still there. And I love the ending of this book. The last book I have for you is Bourbon and Secrets by Victoria Wilder. So this is book 2 in the Bourbon Boys series. Now this one is small town, definitely romantic suspense, but this takes place on like a Kentucky bourbon ranch, which is interesting. I've never read that before. So it definitely gives up small town vibes. Now this one is true enemies to lovers, like borderline hate to love, I would say, only because these two characters have a past. Something happens with our female character. She's a burlesque dancer, but she's a burlesque dancer now. Previously, something happens and he kind of walks in on that happening and he's like, I cannot believe what I just saw. Now, what the hell am I going to do? You are endangering me, my wife at the time, and his 2 kids. And he's like, you need to leave town. I will tell everyone what I saw if you do not leave town. So she leaves, and she is like, she breaks her sister's trust. She breaks the person that's raising her trust. And she comes back, I think it's like 10 years later or something like that. It's a decent amount of time later. And he's like, I literally told you never to come back. And she's like, I have to come back. My sister is struggling. Like, you can do whatever you want now, but I'm here to stay. And so they slowly start to fall in love. And I love it. Now, she's a burlesque dancer when she comes back, so it's very interesting. She is doing some shady things as well, but for a good reason. Like I said, there's a lot of romantic suspense in here, but I actually really enjoyed it as someone who doesn't always love romantic suspense. Like, I'm really diving into that era of my life right now. So, yeah, really, really enjoyed this one. Definitely enemies to lovers. He, like, really doesn't like her. So highly recommend this one. But those are all my enemies to lovers contemporary romances that I have to share with you. If you have any recommendations for me, please drop them in the comments down below. I'm always looking for more books to add to my TBR. If you've made it this far and you want to let me know, leave me a broken heart emoji, like the red broken heart emoji, because I don't know why, that's just what came to mind when I thought of enemies to lovers. So yes, leave me the broken heart emoji in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content from me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.